It was a war of words on Capitol Hill today, kicked off this morning by this accusation from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States, and we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up.
After meeting with House Democrats, Pelosi still hesitated on impeachment, though she did say she believes the president is obstructing justice by refusing to cooperate with congressional investigations. Then, after abruptly ending the Trump/Schumer/Pelosi meeting, the president quickly took to the Rose Garden to hit back with his defense and an ultimatum.
I don't do cover-ups. Senator Schumer, Speaker Pelosi, I want to do infrastructure. But you know what? You can't do it under these circumstances. So get these phony investigations over with.
It's not the first time investigations into the president have shifted the focus away from other issues, but these days Donald Trump isn't the only one sucking the oxygen out of the room.
Abortion is a human right, and we're not going without a fight.
This week, abortion rights activists took to the streets in several cities, including ours in Boston, to oppose strict new abortion laws in states like Ohio, Missouri, Georgia, and Alabama. Many of them would prohibit abortion after the first 6 or 8 weeks before most women even know they are pregnant. But the measure in Alabama takes it even further, banning all abortions, including in cases of rape and incest, unless the mother's life is at risk or the fetus cannot survive, with up to 99 years in prison for doctors who don't comply. These new restrictions are obviously unconstitutional, but that's the point. Anti-abortion activists are hoping to take the case to the Supreme Court and repeal Roe v. Wade, the 1973 Supreme Court decision that first legalized abortion nationally, and the Trump administration is on board.
My hope is that someday we will see the sanctity of life restored to the center of American law. What the American people can be confident of is this president, his vice president, this administration will continue to stand for the sanctity of life.
Of course, the Democrats running to oppose Trump in 2020 feel more than a little differently.
Make no mistake about it. These laws are dangerous, they are regressive, and they are blatantly unconstitutional.
I think this is something that President Trump has unleashed. He apparently wants to have a war on women in America, and if this is a war that he wants to have, he will have it, and he will lose it.
With abortion and impeachment dominating the political divide, come next November, will these be the only issues that matter to voters? Joining me are Jennifer Braceros. Jennifer is a conservative columnist, senior fellow with the Independent Women's Forum. Good to see you, Jennifer.
You too.
Jesse Marmel is former communications director for Governor Deval Patrick and former VP for External Affairs at Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. Good to see you, too. So the one issue that many of us, including me, thought that there might be bipartisan compromise, infrastructure had a very short shelf life, $2 trillion of it with a short shelf life. Whose fault was this breakdown today, Jesse?
Oh, I don't think there can be a breakdown of something that was never really real to begin with.
What does that mean?
Infrastructure has been something that the Trump administration has been paying lip service to from the get-go. And, I do a fair amount of work around transportation infrastructure in my day job, and I know that that community harbored some very genuine hope that there could be new investments, much-needed investments in transportation and infrastructure at the beginning of the administration. But I don't know anyone who truly thought that this latest round of lip service from the Trump administration was real.
I have to disagree with that. My brother-in-law is the Secretary of Transportation for the state of Utah.
Ooh.
He's one of the least political people I know. He cares about one thing and one thing only, and that's infrastructure. And he had an opportunity to meet with this president on that issue, and he was very impressed with his commitment to doing something on this issue, and actually very impressed with his command of the issue.
But
and
his own people,
it.
after the first meeting between the three of them, his own people, including his chief of staff, the president's, criticized the spending that would be connected to something that the president said he was interested in.
Well, there has to be a compromise. But I think what's interesting about what happened today is that for a really long time in Washington, you had people that would go in front of microphones and insult each other and then go behind closed doors and work things out, or they'd be the best of friends and they'd go back out to the cameras and insult each other.
Well, half of it is still happening.
Yes. Well, the point is I think Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer need to realize that that's not the way this president does
but Jesse,
business.
I'm going to go back to
I don't know that that's a development that we should celebrate. The fact
that...
I
don't know that it is either. I'm just saying the political reality is that's what's changed.
I'm quite sure that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are well aware of the new political reality, but I just don't think that the fact that people think that Donald Trump was serious about infrastructure is something that we can genuinely believe when he is willing to throw something he supposedly cares about under the bus because he feels like he's under attack by Democrats. It's literally Washington, D.C. That is what happens.
Can we hold it? Speaking of Schumer and Pelosi, which we've mentioned several times, after Donald Trump skipped out of the meeting, here's what the two Democratic leaders had to say.
We are interested in doing infrastructure. It's clear the president isn't. Now that he was forced to actually say how he'd pay for it, he had to run away.
I pray for the President of the United States, and I pray for the United States of America.
I have to say, I found that I pray for the President of the United States about as smarmy as the day is long. But putting that aside for a second, which you feel free to comment on, she starts the day before the negotiation is going to happen of accusing the guy who she allegedly wants to talk to infrastructure about as engaging in a cover-up. Is that the way you begin a negotiation?
Well, you should ask Donald Trump, right? He's the world's greatest negotiator if you just ask him.
But Nancy Pelosi is allegedly the smartest person in Washington. We've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, well, you have to understand that Nancy Pelosi has multiple balls that she's got going on right now, multiple balls that she is juggling. And the report from the Democrats is that they were showing up to that meeting and feeling like they were about to be set up, realizing that no Republicans had been invited to that meeting in the first place. So if I'm Nancy Pelosi, I'm prioritizing justice for the American people. I'm prioritizing managing my own caucus over prioritizing what, by all appearances, was a fake meeting about infrastructure with Donald Trump. And by the way, if that wasn't a setup, if that wasn't a setup, why in the world was there a pre-printed placard that the president stood behind in the Rose Garden? I mean, call me crazy, doesn't really scream
15
impromptu.
seconds of response, then we'll move on.
I just think it's not good practice to go out in front of a microphone and insult somebody right before you're going to go into a meeting with them and ask them to cut a deal with you.
So can we talk about the other I word, as I said, that is probably going to carry more sway, at least more center stage than infrastructure? Will, I want to start with you for a second. I don't understand. There's no question that Nancy Pelosi has decided, and many Democrats agree, even if he is impeachable, that strategically and politically it's an unwise move. This morning he's engaged in a cover-up. This morning she says he has clearly obstructed justice. Forget Mueller's report, but he's obstructed justice by failure to comply with Congress. She's called himself impeachable. How can the Democrats argue, even if it does hurt them in 2020, that a president can do what even their leader, Pelosi, says he's done, and not have at least impeachment hearings on this man?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that political strategy is obviously important. Winning the election in 2020 is obviously important, but everyone in office has taken an oath of office to support the Constitution, not to support their political party in the next election. And I think what the president has done must be fully investigated by Congress. And if they do find that he has done wrong, he must be held accountable. And the political consequences of that are irrelevant compared to the long-term consequences of not seeking justice.
Held accountable is a euphemism for impeached, if it turns out. Okay, you know, I always feel the obligation to say, well, you're conservative, not a huge Trump fan, but you're a huge rule of law fan. I've known you for a long time. What is this inaction on the part of Democrats, well, and Republicans, obviously, but Democrats least accusing? What does it do going forward to the constitutional balance of power? One party is completely thwarting the ability of another party, the Congress, to do its job. What does that say going forward in terms of the balance of power between those two branches?
I don't think anybody's thwarting Congress from doing their job. I think if Congress wants to hold hearings and impeach the President of the United States, they are perfect.
But they don't now. They want to hold hearings. They want to ask Attorney General Barr what he's doing.
But
they
how
want
is
to
not
ask,
complying with a subpoena, not complying with an attempt at justice? How is not showing up when you're called to testify before Congress failing to participate
by
in the process?
This whole obsession with the Bill Barr thing. I mean, what, people are angry that he took 4 weeks to release a report that he ultimately released, lightly redacted, and then let Jerry Nadler see most of those redactions.
Why can't he just
privately?
go and say that?
I don't know. He has said that.
Okay, so we got to move on, because the primary reason you were here originally before today was to talk about this abortion divide. Here are two of the key players in Alabama: the governor who signed the Alabama bill into law, and the Senate leader who led the opposition. Here they are.
You certainly cannot deter your efforts to protect the unborn because of costs.
Republicans, you guys used to say, we want the government out of our life. We want them out of our business. We want them out of our bedroom. Now you're in my womb. I want you out.
Kay Ivey and Linda Coleman Madison. This is obviously a huge issue for the Democrats. Do you worry that they could overplay their hand on this issue leading into 2020?
I am not worried about the politics of this. I am worried about women. I am deeply, deeply worried about what this means for women and girls. I'm deeply worried about what this means for the economy, for equality, for justice. I mean, the Republicans and conservatives have been making a play to overturn Roe for decades. They have been getting their ducks in a row. And we are now at a place where I talked to one of the heads of the reproductive justice movement here in Massachusetts earlier today, and she said they are preparing for a post-Roe world. Politics be damned, quite frankly. I am worried about women.
Is Roe v. Wade gone? I mean, that's Steve Breyer in his dissent the other day. Stephen Breyer, the Associate Justice, says one can only wonder about what their overrule next. That was minor, but a tax case out of California.
Right.
Is she or he, are they on to something? Is this
So let me start by saying that my organization, the Independent Women's Forum, takes no position on the abortion issue, on the merits of the issue.
It's okay.
And so I just want to set that on the record, because we understand that there are women who are pro-life and there are women who are pro-choice. And really, we believe that all issues are women's issues. This obsession with abortion by some women on the left is sort of crazy in our view.
It's not just women. I mean, the poll, CBS News poll that came out, I guess, last night, 67%, that's not just the left, of voters where they stand on Roe v. Wade say keep it. A mere 28% say overturn it. You and I had this discussion with Marjorie Egan the other day and Steve Kerrigan. Even though there's an equal divide, women who identify themselves as pro-life and pro-choice, a huge swath of the pro-life people believe, as did people like Mario Cuomo, for example, and Ted Kennedy, that while I'm against it, government shouldn't interfere in a woman's right to choose.
Well, yes and no. I mean, over 75% of the American public believes that abortion should be highly restricted after the first 3 months. And that's the maximum amount that most people believe it should be allowed for. So you are right. The American public is both split on this, and they're sort of in the center on this.
I don't think they're split on they're split because they don't want it to go too far. Is that what you're saying?
No, they're split in the sense that 48% of the country considers themselves pro-life, 48%.
Yeah, but a lot of the 48% are pro-life, as I say, support Roe v. Wade.
But then, when you break that down further, most people want abortion to be not banned, but not on demand, and they want heavy restrictions, particularly after the third month. But what this really shows is that the American people want compromise on this issue. And what Roe v. Wade did was it took the abortion issue out of the realm of political compromise, and it decided the issue by judicial fiat. And
do they want compromise, the American people?
They want women to be able to control their own bodies, which, by the way, I don't think is a crazy thing to be, quote, obsessed with, the ability to make choices about your own body and your own reproductive freedom. I think couching this in political terms is the exact wrong thing. Political officials making decisions about what a woman and her family do with their reproductive future is exactly how we got into this situation. You know,
yesterday, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yesterday I was at the Stop the Ban protest on Beacon Hill, and I was standing next to a 78-year-old woman who was there with her granddaughter. And I saw her fighting back the urge to both cry and use expletives in talking about the fact that she was here once again. She had protested this the first time around, fought for it the first time around, and the fact that we are in a place where she is standing there with her granddaughter on the steps of the State House protesting for the exact same thing again truly had her on the verge of tears.
Isn't that what people are supposed to do? I mean, the clip you showed at the beginning...
To lose their rights, to have their rights taken away? No, that is not what people are supposed to do.
The clip you showed at the beginning that showed all those people protesting for the right to an abortion, and likewise there are people who protest for the right to life every year in Washington, D.C. That is the type of political activism that we should be engaged in, and we need to convince people, we need to change people's hearts and minds one way or the other, or come to a resolution in the middle. And Roe v. Wade took that element away. The justices decided by judicial fiat that abortion was going to be legal throughout 9 months of a woman's pregnancy, and they took it out of the political process. I think that
does not belong in the political process.
Not for 9 months of a woman's pregnancy, though. No, well,
they did.
That's for the next discussion. Jesse, it's good to see you. Thanks, you.
Jennifer,
I really appreciate your time.